and what are you passionate about? And today I get to bring in Yanko, the hypnotist guy. And you're gonna have to say your website, but we'll add that in the end anyway. But Yanko and I met originally networking. Then we had a conversation. And since then, I'm like, oh my God, who can I connect him with? And he's just awesome. And I need to interview him. So here you are. And I feel so honored.
I'm honored to be here. I'm really happy to connect with you and share any insights that I have with anybody that I can share with. So I'm
Yeah.
glad to be here.
So thank you again so much. So hypnotist, that's not something that you wake up as a kid and you're like, I'm gonna be a hypnotist. So can you share
No,
a little bit? I
no,
mean, at
that's
least
not, yeah, that's not how it worked with me. I didn't wake up one day and decided, oh my God, I'm going to be this hypnotist guy. No, that didn't happen that way. So let me give you a little bit of backstory. I've done IT work for almost 20 to 25 years, and I was happy what I was until I wasn't anymore. Sitting in the front of a computer for 10 hours more kind of put stress on the body. I got overweighted and had a bunch of issues, and I ended up seeing a doctor, um, which was like, yeah, instead of you got to fix your diet and change your lifestyle, it was like, oh, we're going to put you on steroids. So I was like, no. So I made that decision right there and then that I had to change, like something had to change. And I decided to start changing and change the diet. That wasn't really easy. Then after doing different kind of exercises and stuff and proper eating, sleeping, I started to meditate because that was the next thing on the list because the stress was still there. I'm going to work, I'm dealing with clients, then I'm going home and I wasn't really happy and not all my family was because every little thing will just, get me off the edge and I'll just snap. And so I started to meditate and ideally I didn't know what I was doing. I was just like sitting, doing different things, and from like 5 to 10 minutes of just sitting in silence, I ended up doing hour to 2 hours a day. And that started to take me into like weird states of mind, which I didn't know even existed. And so naturally, I started to research it, and I wanted to find out what is this like state that I'm being in. Is it like is it happening somehow? Is there a recipe? Can I replicate it? Is it something related to like how I sit? Can I lie down? Different things I experimented with, and that led me into figuring out what trance was. And once I figured out what trance was, that led me into the path of hypnosis. So naturally, I started to experiment with different types of hypnosis and different things. And finally, after 2 years of experimenting, I decided to go and get a proper training and be able to bring that out for other people and have them experience that, wonderful outer state of consciousness or anything in their life. So when I pursued education in Florida Institute of Hypnotherapy, which I graduated with over a 500 supervised hours, practical hours, and here I am now, 2 years later, running my own business and helping people with hypnosis or the power of hypnosis.
I I love so much about your story, but there's a couple things I want to highlight. One, when you went to the doctors, you didn't instantly jump on the bandwagon of medication. And I think more often than not, that tends to be the default action that people take. What was it that kind of made you say, I don't think so. I'm going to actually take action on my own to shift and change?
Well, I've seen it with the people around me where they're just like settling down for whatever the doctors say, and they usually look for a quick fix or magical pill or something that'll do the work for them instead of actually putting out the work. And so Yeah, I wasn't really into like, going straight up to medication and, looking for an easy way out. I was just looking for more of a permanent way per se to like improve my health instead of just quick patch here and there. Here you go. Until the next time, until we see you again. So does that answer your question?
Yeah, that's a great answer. And I love it because you took responsibility for your own well-being. And I
Hmm.
think
Hmm.
that is something so critical. Even if you go and reach out to a hypnos, a hypnotist, you can't just, it's not a quick fix, right? Because for me, until we talked, I'm thinking, are people just going to the hypnotist for a quick fix and then thinking everything's all better? But you kind of enlightened me to the fact that that's not quite the case. So, can you explain to me a little bit about why hypnotherapy is beneficial, but it's not going to fix everything unless people take action as well?
Well, the hypnosis helps you shape the way you're seeing things and help you cope with your reality or your emotions or whatever you're experiencing that pushes you in the way you're going. So you can see the things in a different light. Like, let's say instead of feeling angry about it, then you can feel funny about it. Like, or instead of feeling scared, for example, from your boss for like bossing you around or something, then you can change your feeling and be in the same situation, but then feel funny about it in kind of a sense like, okay, maybe you're just like, wants things to be done a particular way, and that's not so scary. That could be a funny thing. You know what I mean? Depends on how you see it. So with hypnosis as a tool, you're not actually changing your memories. You're not wiping your brain off, like some people say, because there's a lot of myths and misconceptions about hypnosis. You actually change the way you feel about something, you change the way you see it in a different light, and that kind of helps you to make that next step or allow you to do the change you want to do. Does that answer your
Yes.
question?
Yeah, that's a great answer. And I appreciate the clarity around that because I didn't quite understand it, and I've been meditating for many years, but I guess I just assumed that people just go in and they, go get hypnotherapy and I don't know. Like I just couldn't get the buy on that they couldn't take action. So when you said that, it made a lot of sense where you shift the emotional response
Hmm.
to the experience
Hmm.
rather than delete the memory or, program them to be,
Right.
I don't know,
Yeah,
superhuman,
it's
I
not
guess.
it's not it's not brainwashing. I had somebody that contacted me and said, my girlfriend broke with me and dumped me, and can you just wipe that part out of my mind because I'm feeling sad all the time and everything? And it's just like, no, you can't. You have to process your emotions and everything because you're an emotional being. You're not just like a robot, you know. So a lot of people have misconceptions of what hypnosis is and what it's not. There's different definitions for hypnosis, but my personal opinion, because like if you ask any hypnotist or hypnotherapist, they'll give you a different definition of what hypnosis is and what it's not. But the best way I can explain it is that it's something that you have to try in life, like anything else. It's like explaining to a little kid, you're gonna burn yourself if you touch something hot, and then he won't know what it is until he actually burn himself. So the best way to know what it is to actually experience it, and then you have an aha moment or idea of what it actually is.
Yeah. Awesome. So then I want to touch upon something else. So on top of taking back your health, right? You recognize that even though you were eating well, you're now incorporating physical fitness, which we all know that motion is so important for a
Mm-hmm.
mind body
Spirit.
angst, right? You were still struggling with reactionary behaviors, and so you went into meditation, and you mentioned that you meditated for like 5 to 10 minutes to start. when I started, I couldn't even sit for 30 seconds. I had such a monkey brain. How is it, what was the discipline that you implemented for yourself that helped you grow your meditation practice from 5 minutes to 2 hours?
Well, uh, nobody is comfortable being by itself. We're like we like to be with other people. Like nobody wants to be with his and sit with his emotions or thoughts or anything. Everyone's trying to find a way to escape or do something. So at the beginning, it wasn't something pleasant. You sit and your thoughts are just going and going and going, and you don't know what people are talking about. And so you have an expectation that you sit to meditate and you like daydream or visualize something or go someplace, or it's not of those things. It's just like you're sitting in the moment and you're just experiencing life as it is. Like there's nothing special about it. The way I can explain it is that if you sit on the road and you're just observing the traffic passing, and the traffic are your thoughts, you're just sitting and thought comes in, you like that blue car, and you say, ah, blue car, and then it goes away, and you just continue looking, and everything comes and goes, and those thoughts come and go, and then you just observe and you don't participate. You don't jump on the street and say, I'm going to control the traffic, or stop that car or whatever. You're just like, you're there, it's happening like anything else. um so that took me a while to figure out that I can just sit and observe, and then that kind of allow me to then take it on my day-to-day life and be able to just observe in situation, like say I'm having conversation with somebody or anything. um, then I can kind of step back and just observe the whole thing, how it unfolds, instead of reacting and saying, whoa, are you talking to me this way or whatever way or whatever. Yeah, I just could like observe and sit with it, and make conscious decisions, not react based on feelings, emotions, or whatever that is. Whatever
That is
comes up. Yep.
That is unequivocally the best simplified explanation of meditation I have ever heard, Yanko. And
Well,
I
thank you.
sincerely mean that because, I talk to people and I'm like, well, I'm aware of my thoughts. And they're just like, what in the world is this lady talking about? But I like the visual where it's you just kind of watch your cars passing by. I think that is really so well put and a good way for people to grasp onto the idea of what meditation could really be like. So thank you so much for that explanation. I might steal that if you let me.
Oh, it's not mine. You can use it anywhere you want or any way you want. I'll even give you a bonus points for the people that are overthinkers or a lot in their heads. It doesn't really help to just sit. So I usually tell my clients, if they're having that kind of issues, to grab a piece of paper and sit down and write whatever comes to mind. And they can just write blackberries, buy bread, whatever comes in. You just like pour it, no judgment. You just write it down. And that only takes about maybe 5 minutes on a sheet of paper. Then you put it on the garbage. And there's wonderful thing that the mind does when it knows that it's on paper, automatically scraps it off. So you're on a way kind of cleaning thoughts that are repeating, because there's repetitive thoughts that are coming to mind all the time that you keep getting over and over, and not realizing that you do. So for some people that are really like into thinking and not can just let go, that's a wonderful exercise they can do. And if they do it for like 7 days, they'll basically see a result. Some people can take longer. um, for me, it took almost, like, I don't want to discourage anybody, but for me it took almost like 3 months or so to like kind of start seeing gaps in between the thoughts, because there's just so much going in my mind. And the fact that you doing, or I'm doing, like um, uh, series watching and the TV or news, and you keep getting reprogrammed back in the brain, that doesn't really help you much. And this is why they call it programming, and they have a program director, because that's a type of hypnosis. You sit and you concentrate on the TV, and you have concentration, and then whatever comes in, your thinking mind steps aside and it just gets programmed, and that's how it usually goes. Same thing
Ooh,
applies even when you drive your car and you concentrated on the road or on the traffic ahead, and then you listen to the commercials and all this sinks in your subconscious mind, and you're getting programmed. It's like us on Facebook, or do this, and like it's like direct commands. They don't do not programming. They don't say, well, maybe if you like, you can go and like us on Facebook or whatever. They say, like us on Facebook, comment, or share or whatever. So it's like a direct embedded commands.
ooh, so good. Oh my gosh, Yanko, spot on. Okay, so one, I love the idea of writing out your thoughts on paper, right? I truly believe that, the biggest shifts that happened, and I will shout out Robin Sharma because I've read many books, but one that helped me was the 20-20-20 rule in the 5 a.m. club. And it's do physical exercise for 20 minutes
Mm-hmm.
and then meditate. And then I journaled. And the it was like I go through all these thoughts, and all of a sudden, bam, I'd get an insight. It was like the clearing, the clouds open, and then, but I wouldn't have been able to do that, I don't think, if I hadn't had that discipline to write right after the meditation. Because much like you, it took me, and again, I'm like Yanko, I'm not here to dissuade anybody. I think that anything that's worthwhile takes time and
Mm-hmm.
it takes practice. But
Mm-hmm.
it took me, I want to say, good 6 months before I really was able to experience what people say is the gap, right? That space in between the thoughts where it's peace. It's a peace that I cannot describe. Until you experience it, it's kind of eluding to understand. So, and then secondly, I tell my daughters this all the time. I tell everybody, of course, but that our brain is literally absorbing everything that we take into our experience. The music, the conversation, the way we talk to ourselves. You're programming yourself. Every time you say, I'm stupid, you're literally telling your
Yep.
subconscious to treat yourself
Yep.
like crap. And
Yep.
so, it becomes really apparent when you do start to meditate and you do start to create a discipline around getting curious about your thoughts, how critically important it is that you expose yourself to messaging, to programs, to things that you are okay being programmed into your brain because you can't
Right.
escape it. Yeah,
Right. Yeah.
yeah. I love
So
that. So go ahead.
I was gonna say it's almost in it's almost impossible on today's age to be able to unload to a point, unless you go to like a silent retreat, or you get out of like regular life and become a monk or anything. But then you're missing out on an opportunity to have somebody reflect back to you of what you need to work on, because if you're by yourself, then you're not going to have anybody to reflect back to you, to like work as a mirror to help you improve or change or anything. Because like, think of it this way: if there's nothing if there's nothing that pushes your buttons to change, then you're not going to do the change. Nothing's going to happen. You're just going to be happy. Everything's going to be provided for you. You're going to have money or whatever you want. And well, what's going to be the point of like doing anything? And that reminds me of a story. Sometimes I like to tell stories. I don't know if that's okay with you, but
You can do whatever you want.
there's this story that I read somewhere about one of the presidents back in the day going and getting the people to vote for him, and in visiting different villagers and different villages. And so he was going from like a village to village. And on one of those village, he went to a guy that was just plowing his property there. And he went close to him to start to talk to him and tell him, hey, I'm running for president, would you vote for me or anything? But just when he was ready to start talking to him, he saw one of those horse flies on the back of the horse, and he went to like snap it out of it. And as soon as he lift up his hand to go and smack it out of it, the old dude, the villager, grabbed his hand and says, "Don't you dare!" And then he kind of like get all like surprised, like, "Why would you stop me?" And he says, "If it's not for this horsefly," he says to him, "this horse won't move an inch." So
Ooh.
sometimes you need in life that horsefly to push your buttons to make you move and to keep going through like different things in life, to keep changing and improving.
Yeah, it's so interesting because for a long time after I started meditating, right, I had this belief that I'm going to reach this pinnacle of growth, right? I'm going to achieve. Nothing's going to bother me. I'm just going to be smooth as gravy.
Yep.
And I kept running into these situations, and I'm like, what the fuck? I can't. Everything, like, I'm supposed to be above reacting to this. And it finally occurred to me, Carrie, you're a human being having a human experience, and
Yep.
to, you're supposed to
Yep.
be human. It's just what can you take away from the experience you're in so that way you can continue to grow and expand? Because
Right.
something that I truly believe, and I'm curious what your take is that we as humans are meant for growth and expansion. We're meant to continue to learn and develop and build our resiliency and capacities. And when you're not pushed and challenged, you're not able to do that.
Right. So I'm kind of the same way with you on that. Like I think my personal belief is that we're here for a reason to like learn and expand and do different things in life. Um, I don't know if it's ascribed to the idea of like spirit world and afterlife and reincarnation and all of that stuff, because different people have different belief systems. Um, but if you do, then that'll give you the opportunity to think of that you keep coming back in the body to keep improving and getting back to where you come from, which is
Yeah.
light and love.
Yes, yes. So it's interesting, Yanko. So for much of my community, I'm sure you know, but for those of you who don't, I've studied theology across all, I mean, not all, that's an overstatement, but a pretty good amount of different of, theology text. And then I've also studied science. And so I tell people you don't have to believe in a God or God consciousness, but science, quantum physics proves that we live in a conscious universe. It can't not. Energy it never dissipates. It transmutes, but it doesn't dissipate. And so my personal belief is we do reincarnate in some form, whether it's in a human body or a different type of energy, until we grow and remove all of the experiences that have kept us from unconditional love, right? I totally agree. And I mean, I that seems like such a stretch to some people, and I totally, totally get it. But at the end of the day, I truly think that if you go on a self-healing journey, right, whatever that is, if you start therapy, if you start doing meditation stuff, you'll eventually come to an understanding that your energy is going to expand into something else. It just can't not.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, my experience with working with people on trance is that um, they go to past lives. They go there, like in their similarities, like when they're in this outer state of being, where are they going? Like, why would they say? all right, if I'm keep like regressing you back to your childhood and I keep regressing you and you go back to your mother's womb and then I keep regressing you, then you go back to the life between lives and then keep regressing and you keep going to the last life before this life. So how is that even possible into like, if say you don't believe in any of that stuff and that you have that experience, then what do you make out of that? You know what I mean? That's sometimes that's what I think. Like if because people say, well, maybe they read it somewhere or they watched it in a movie or something else, or but how is it similar with so many people? Like, is it like, you know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
but
Well,
that's been my personal experience, and I usually go, I don't say that I know something for sure because people say, well, do you know for sure? I'm like, nothing is for sure. Like I'm
nothing.
keeping proving and I'm going by what I know right now, and this is what I know right now. So tomorrow if I come to find out something else, then I'll say, no, I was wrong. This is what I know now, and this is what I stand for. So
I love so okay, so there's a book, Many Lives, Many Masters, that I read,
mhm,
and it was a psychiatrist who took a patient into trance. And
right.
that's now, mind you, this was a very logical thinking man. He was all about the
Yep.
psychologies, Western psychologies. And it was when he took this woman into trance to heal these unresolved issues that she could not release through whatever means they were working on, that he discovered that she went into past life regression. And once she healed that, she actually had insights into like she just
Yep.
had a knowing of events
Yep.
that hadn't yet unfolded. And so um but the second thing you said that I want to highlight is I'm a huge student of Dr. David R. Hawkins, right? So he is the doctor who created the map of consciousness. It measures the frequency of emotion that we emit, right?
Right.
And he said that humans will struggle in this lifetime because we're so determined to be able to put into context something that's unknowable, right? So, what you said is this is what you know now,
hmm
but you're not. Oh, it has to be like that. And I think that that is where you and I experience life freely, because I'm the same way. I don't assume to know. There's no right or wrong. There's no good or bad. I don't define people's actions as, that is morally wrong or whatever. I don't know. The only thing I know is if we come from a universe that is created from love, right? And that's a high energetic frequency. We already know that that is a way to attract.
Right.
Then my only understanding needs to be is to show up in love. That's it. Everything else is subject to, I
Right.
don't know, so I'm not going to
Yep.
judge, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that reminds me of Alan Watts. I don't know if you had the pleasure of reading some of his materials or watching some of his lectures, but he has that one saying that goes something like this: "Let me help you set the monkey to the fish not drown by putting you up on the branch." So how would you know, like, if you're actually helping somebody or not helping somebody? Like, how do you know what's best for somebody or not? Like how do you know that you know? Like you don't know. It's
Yeah.
just like the me personally, the moment I think I know something, then I'm closing myself to opportunities to find out more because I made a conclusion that I decided that I know what I needed to know, and that's it. Like there's no more growth. There's nothing left to do. So I'm always open in the flow of like bring me something new. I would like to talk about it. I would like to find out or read about it or experience
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree, and that served me really well, right? Because I'll give you some real examples. So I network a lot, right? So I'll
hmm
hear somebody say something like, they're the romance guy. They bring romance into your life. And my ego instantly is like, this guy's full of shit. But because I have that bigger awareness, I'm like, no, you're gonna suspend that judgment. You're gonna have that conversation. You're gonna come from a place of curiosity. And as a
Right.
result, like that specific incident, that dude is awesome. He's actually doing the same work as you and I, just in a different context. But that's the problem is we immediately make this assumption, we hold true to it without holding ourselves accountable to question it, and then we limit ourselves from experiencing a depth of interaction that you could have if you had not just assumed. So absolutely.
I
So okay, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I was just gonna say, like, that's usually how it is, and that brings me back to the topic of hypnosis, like
Yes.
something I love about to talk about. So, your ego state or whatever you're developing your character, because it's a character. Like when you're born, you're like a clean slate. There's no memory or anything. Your parents give you a name, and everybody around you tells you you're this and that, or like you're a boy or girl, or your memories are this, or if the environment shapes you, and you create this personality that you think you are. and and so as you grow through life, you get to a point where you're kind of comfy and you don't want to change anything, and that personality kind of sits like a firewall on a computer that filters everything from your deeper mind, from your soul, that keeps you disconnected. So that gets in the way. So the older you get, you're losing that curiosity or willingness to learn, and it gets harder and harder. You're not longer like a little kid that wants to say, well, maybe I want to push this bug and see what it does when you see a bug on the street. You know what I mean? So this is why hypnosis comes in as a great tool, because it helps you set that firewall aside and connect directly and be able to experience new opportunities and open your mind to different possibilities and continue to grow as you're getting to adult age.
Yeah, that's a really good way of looking at it. Again, I've taken myself into trance through meditation. I've never been hypnotized by somebody else. So I want to talk about something you and I discussed the first time we met that I really appreciated. You said to me, if somebody holds on to their story, you won't work with them. And the example is it, right? You said, if a person's telling you they love going to the doctors, that's going to be more difficult. It's not impossible, but and correct me if I'm wrong, because I could have misunderstood, but is it if somebody's attached to the story, like I hear people all the time say, I can't quit smoking, there's no way I can quit smoking, is that does that make it more difficult to hypnotize somebody into not smoking?
No, the hypnosis. Okay, let me clear things up a little bit. So
Yeah.
all hypnosis is self hypnosis. So I am kind of like a guide to guide you into that process if you haven't experienced it before, because everyone gets into a trance state. You might be driving down the road and get so focused on something that you're thinking, and in one moment you miss your exit. That's a state of trance. That's a state of hypnosis. um, or you keep telling yourself something until it becomes true for you, like affirmations. Those are self hypnosis. So all hypnosis is self hypnosis. I'm nearly like a coach. Like, say if you're gonna go and run 100K, you can't just get up one day and say I'm gonna run 100K. You want somebody that done it to be able to help you and say, all right, you need to pace yourself to this mile, or maybe you're running out of like resources, you need candy or whatever after 50 miles of running, to keep the energy going. So it's kind of like that. I I've done it and I know what it feels like, and I guide you into this self hypnosis where you get within, through the guidance of me guiding you in that experience. But a lot of ways, if you're not looking to get that experience, and here's an example, because I live in Chicago. Say you come into Chicago and you want to experience Navy Pier, or you want to go downtown and look at the sky rises or something. And I'm a tour guy, and I'm keep telling you, like, look here, here's the Sears Tower, here's the John Hancock building, or whatever. But you have no interest of like getting to know what the guide you to get to, and you're looking at the hot dog stand, you're not going to get anything out of that experience. So that's the best way I can describe it, is that when you're ready to have the experience and you're ready to like run or change or whatever you want, I am that guy that can help you get to where you're going. Does that make
Yeah.
sense the way I'm explaining it?
Yeah, no, that's very helpful. And I think, you and I both know people have to be ready to change, to go and take action, to do
Right,
anything, whether it's to go through hypnosis, do exercise and things like that. And something I want to highlight to the community, I've talked to many people in the coaching, hypnosis, all the things, right? Um, and what I loved about you was that you did go through the journey yourself. And I'm not suggesting other people didn't, but you went to the doctors, you had the choice and you made the choice to take action. And then you slowly implemented different disciplines to get to this point. And what I encourage anybody watching this is um, to look for people, much like Yanko said about running 100K, right? Look for people who've gone through the experience, because it that carries so much more weight than
right,
just going through school
right,
or getting the degree, right?
right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's awesome. So you've been in practice for 2 years. I know that we talked about the fact that you can do hypnosis virtually, right?
right. Yeah, I can. I started right around COVID time, and so a lot of the training systems had to adapt because people were not allowed to leave their homes and they were looking for help and have different things. And if I were to go before COVID, I wasn't gonna get the training that allowed me to do it virtually online, and I was gonna have to go and retrain afterwards. But I got lucky, so sometimes one door closes and another one opens. So COVID was the thing for me that helped me get to that point. Maybe I made that decision right at the right time. I don't know, but yeah.
So okay, so walk me through hypnosis. If somebody in the community is like, "Oh man, I really resonate with Yanko." Is it a one-time thing? Is it a multiple type session thing? Like what can somebody expect if they reach out to you?
Well, hypnosis is not like a brainwashing or anything that just changes instantly. For some people, it does, because some people are more natural into getting into trance state than other. The same way some athlete can have the gene to have muscular body and become a bodybuilder without putting too much work into like lifting weights to get the body it wants, versus somebody that doesn't have the gene and still wants to look ripped and goes through the process. He has to work twice as much because he doesn't have the gene. So 20% of the populations are really natural at doing it. They're like getting there really quick, and changes happen like really instantly. But I will do a disservice by telling people that yeah, it's a one-time thing and you just change. Usually tell people, let's see where we are. And the other thing is that uh, hypnosis to me, it's very personal experience. Because I've been hypnotized by other people in the field, and I find it like finding your like hairstylist, or the person that cuts your hair. You might go to different shops until you find the right person that you just like, that cuts your hair the way you want it to be cut. So you might go to me and not like me, or might go to somebody else until you find the right person. But when you find the right person, it just clicks and everything works. So that's the other thing I wanted to add to it.
That's really good insight. And I think, again, I want to highlight that for anybody watching. There is, you can't just go into any place, any doctor, any therapist, any coach, any personal trainer, any hypnotist, and expect that that's always going to be the right person for you right off the rip. You should really get curious and
Yep,
listen to how it feels, right? If it
yep,
doesn't feel good. And I think still too often, and granted, there's a huge shortage of support out there for people in the mental health um, crisis right now. But I think too often we just go to the first person we're recommended and we just experience it, and if it's bad we're like, nope, that didn't work, I'm done. Or we just sit in that experience even though you're not really getting the results that
right,
you're hoping to get. And so I
right.
love that you highlighted that. That is amazing.
Yeah. So I am the same way with like even my clients. Like the other time we talked about it, I by running my own business, I also have the opportunity to choose my clients, not my clients only choose me. So if I don't feel like I'm resonating with somebody or like we're not like where we're supposed to stay, there's no connection or anything, I won't waste my time and their money. Like it's just not going to happen. I'll be upfront. So that's something to consider about too. Like when you're looking to get help with somebody, are you clicking with that person? Is it like doing it for you or whatever way you look at it, just kind of sometimes you just have the knowing, like trusting your instincts to like, okay, this might be the person. Not to say don't do the research. Yeah, do your due diligence. Check out the person you're dealing business with, or research them. Go see what they're doing, or what they've done, or what their reviews are, and all that stuff. That's also helpful.
Yeah, well, you touch upon something we talked about earlier, right? Energy, we're energy. And so you and I both know we come from one collective consciousness. Like you and I aren't separate, right? At the end of the day, you strip away this body and we're existing in
Right,
a whatever
right,
collectively. Um, and so I talk about this a lot. I think people dismiss their natural reaction to another person or energy that comes into their experience. And what you're highlighting is, don't just do the research and say, oh, this person's credentialed and stuff. Feel it, like, just if even if it feels weird. And
right,
the other thing is, you don't have to know why. I think too often we are like,
right,
oh, we need to put into context why that
right,
person rubs me the wrong way.
right.
No, you don't. Right?
Well, that goes the same way as like, anybody in their life at one point or another were in a crowd with people where they just didn't feel okay with somebody in that crowd. They don't know the person, but they just kind of feel like this something's wrong with this person, or like something didn't resonate it. So you don't really have to like know the person to know, if that makes any sense. Like there's instant like communication in the world of hypnosis. They say that only 20% of the communication happens through your voice. The other 80% is done to body language. So you might just sit and have this tense body or like facial expression because you're tensing up and everything, and you're projecting that outward. So people just know, like when you see somebody that's in happy mood, or you just know this person is happy. If that makes any sense the way I'm explaining it.
Yeah, it does. Well, even more than that, though, if we're going back to scientific data, like, if you're truly a joyful person, you're going to vibrate higher. People are going to be attracted
Mhm.
to you. And the opposite is true. If you're always complaining and negative and stuff, people are going to be repelled to you. The reason I bring that up is I think, particularly for me, right? I work in addiction and mental health. Shame and guilt are so pervasive. And a lot of times people feel guilty or shameful for not wanting to like or not wanting to, but for not they're not able to understand
Right,
it. And so they beat the crap out of themselves. I'm like, don't do that. Like, and so I'm curious when, like, okay, so somebody goes through hypnosis. Do you think that by, or have you experienced that by, stripping down that firewall so that they can get to the subconscious? Do people experience a better connection with their intuition? Are they able to intuitively, like, just lean more naturally into
right,
the whole experience with people rather than just a voice?
right. So you and you're getting connection back with your true self, and it's a weird experience. It's like to me, it's like having somebody else inside my body. Like, say, if I hypnotize you and I give you a suggestion for your deeper mind to lift up your hand because it's feeling like it's lifting, rising, and it's like floating, and you're in the trance, your ego sits there and it feels like somebody else is controlling your body. It's moving your hand, which is your deeper mind that you're losing connection with. The same way that you can consciously breathe and then disconnect from the idea of consciously breathing where everything happens automatically because your deeper mind does all that stuff for you. Like you can consciously grow your hair or grow your nails. That happens on a deeper level. So by experiencing that, you're getting more insights from like um, experiences that you have that are limited to whatever the firewall it's limiting it. It's basically like taking the cap in anything it's possible. Like you can do all kinds of stuff that you didn't know you could do. You're getting all that insight, and this is where that happens. And at that point, I would like to say that I'm not a I'm not a psychotherapist and I'm not a doctor. So when I have a session with somebody, I don't sit and say, "Tell me how you feel about when you were 2 years old or whatever." I don't do none of that stuff. You're in trance. You're connecting that firewall with your deeper self. You know what's happening. Like you have the opportunities to like see all the corners, like looking at this painting. You can look at from here. You can look at from here. You have all those possibilities that you can take, and that's what allows you to make that change and give you more opportunities when in reality you feel like you're trapped. You feel like there's only one way, there's nothing else, and you're just stuck. You know what I mean? That gives you that opportunity to like say, hmm, there was another way I can like maybe do that. So even some of the greater minds, I think it was like Nikola Tesla. I could be wrong about that, but he was getting in this self-induced trance when he would sit in a chair and fell asleep and have like a metal balls in his hand and have like a metal plate underneath. And when he falls asleep and the hand relaxes, the balls will come down and make a noise and wake him up. And he was able to stay right on the edge of like the trance state of like sleeping and waking up. And he used that state to be able to do designs and other things inside his deeper mind to take it to fruition or whatever way you want to imagine it. Kind of like what people do in lucid dreaming. You know, they go in the dream lucidly and they can create their reality and experiment with different things and maybe construct a building or a dish or engine or whatever they want to experiment with and then take it in the actual physical reality and make it happen.
Yeah. Well, I mean, think about Einstein. Einstein always says it, your imagination is far greater than knowledge because the
Yep.
imagination is what created everything it is that we experience today.
Right.
So, and I think you are right about that being Tesla because I've heard that story as well. So we only have a few minutes left. I'm gonna obviously grab your information and put it in for anybody who wants to reach out to Yanko. What's next for you, Yanko? So you're continuing to grow and expand. What are you chasing for yourself in the next whatever amount of time?
I'm not really chasing anything. I feel like I'm complete and I'm in a good place in this time in my life when I can't ask for anything from life. Like, I don't, I'm not like most people that think that physical things or anything else will make me happy. I have this happiness within. So I don't really need to buy the latest iPhone or to be happy or not to say that I don't have desires to grow anything. I'm just happy. I mean, it just you sit and you're happy with yourself and there isn't anything that like I'm looking forward to. Whatever life brings me, I'm happy with it. It's like and that's the other thing that makes me excited about life is that if you know how the movie's going to end, you're not going to watch it. Like if you know what's going to happen tomorrow, or if you're going to win the big lottery, or if you have a amazing vacation or whatever it is, you're not going to be like excited about it. You're not going to be like surprised, like let's put it this way. So that's how I think in
I love that answer so much. And I think that really actually speaks to, why it may serve somebody watching this to experiment with getting hypnotized because the reality is however you get there, whether it's through hypnosis or
right,
meditation or any energy, it's irrelevant, right? There's so many ways, but
right,
when you can get that inner peace, it's to just exist is enough
right.
because life unfolds for you, right? You didn't
Right,
say, "Hey, Carrie, can you
right,
interview
right.
me?"
Yep.
I dropped into your emails like, "Hey,
Exactly.
dude,"
Yeah, exactly.
right?
I mean,
Yeah.
you don't make the sun rise and set.
My
Like
gosh.
everything just happens and experiencing it. Even if you're not here physically, it's same thing will continue to happen. I mean, it is what it is. Life just happens. So, um, yeah, when you at peace with yourself and you kind of like get in that state of like being full and complete, because everyone it's perfect, full and complete, and there's no need to do anything but just the whole programming and everything takes you out of it, and you have like programs that says, oh, you're not good enough, or oh, you this, or oh, you that, and like you keep making these assumptions for yourself, but in reality there's nothing wrong with you. You're perfect the way you are. Like everyone's perfect just the way they are. Yeah.
Ah, what a perfect way to end. I love that so much. And, earlier today, I did this experiment with a networking group. I had a 5-minute presentation and I had I picked love over fear. And most people like, oh, I operate in love until I get you quiet and say, I love you. And they're like, what's in it for me? This chick's out of
Right.
nowhere, right? But to your point, where you and I experience life, and I'm not there consistently. I'm there like 90% of the time. It really is peace. Like it's just this unwavering love for self and everybody else in who they are in this moment. So thank you so much for your time.
Oh, you're
Anybody
most
who is
welcome.
yeah, anybody who's at all interested, please reach out to